All right, so for notes 0.7 equations, we're going to be talking about adding or subtracting the constant. So you're going to fill this out, so if you need to pause, absolutely. So the first thing you would look for is parentheses, and this is where you distribute, where you'd multiply. Then you would combine like terms, and remember combine means you add, but the big one is remember you add on the same side. You get the variable on one side is your third step, so that is where you'd use addition or subtraction to move variable pieces. But this is all going to be for later, right? 4 and 5 is actually what we're focusing on now. So number 4, you want to isolate the variable. So this is where you actually solve. And first, when you isolate the variable, you want to add or subtract the constant. And the constant is the number with the variable. Second, you would multiply or divide the coefficient. And we're going to talk more about the coefficient tomorrow. Then you're going to check your work. Okay, so this is where you'll plug in the number you found into the original equation, and both sides must be equal. This is very important for you to check if you actually got the right answer. All right, so we're going to solve something called one-step equations, and we're going to first draw a balance bar. And a balance bar is a line that goes down your equal sign. So like how my example that's filled out, a balance bar you should always draw first, because when you do math, when solving equations, it helps you to remember that what you do on one side, you must do on the other side of that balance bar. And when you solve equations, the other important thing that I have here is you want to do the opposite to move numbers. So if you see you're adding something, to move it to the other side, you would subtract it. If you see that you're multiplying, you do the opposite. You would divide, and so on and so forth. So let's look at number 1 here. So number 1, we have x minus 6 equals 12. So x minus 6, this minus 6 is actually my constant because it's the number with the variable. And if I see it's minusing 6, I do the opposite, so I would add 6. And what you do on one side, you must do on the other. And so the minus 6 and 6 would cancel out. Then I do 12 plus 6, which gives me 18. Then I have you check your work. So you're going to replace this x with the 18 you just found, because that's what it says x equals. So now we have 18 minus 6 equals 12. Figure out what 18 minus 6 is. 12 equals 12. That's correct. So we had a good answer. So now let's look at number 2 together. So number 2, once again, you always want to draw that balance bar. Then I see we have x plus 5 equals 11. So that 5 is my constant. And you remember you can either add or subtract. So I see that it's being added. So what I want to do is the opposite, which is what we were talking about. So I'm going to subtract that 5 on both sides of my balance bar, because what you do on one side, you must do on the other. These two 5s cancel out. All we're left with is that x, so we drop down the x. And then I figure out what 11 minus 5 is, which is 6. I'm going to take this 6, I'm going to check my work, right? So since I know now x's number is 6, I'm going to replace this x with the number 6. All right. And when I do the math, 6 plus 5 gives me 11. Drop down the equals 11. Is that correct? Yes, it is. So we're good. We can move on to the next problem. All right, so next up we have x plus 19 equals 35. So what should we do first? Balance bar. And then I have a plus 19. That 19 again is my constant, which is with my variable. So if I have a plus 19, I have to do the opposite. What's the opposite? Minusing 19. And what you do on one side, you got to do on the other. Those cancel out. We're left with just the x. And 35 minus 19 gives me 16. Again, feel free to use your calculator when you do 35 minus 19. Then I'm going to take this 16 and replace it with my x to check my work. So I have 16 plus 19. I plug that in my calculator. I get 35 equals 35, and that is a good answer. Last one. This one's a little bit weird because now the x is over here on the right side, but that's okay because, again, just balance bar and start figuring your stuff out. So my constant in this one is the 22, and I see that it's being subtracted. So the opposite of subtracting by 22 is adding by 22. These two 22s cancel out because they're opposites. We're left with just an X on that right side. And then 46 plus 22 is gonna give me 68. So X equals 68. What I'm gonna do is replace my X and check my work. So I have 46 equals, I'm gonna replace my X with that 68 we found, and then I'm gonna minus 22. Check this in my calculator. I get 46 equals 46. That's a good answer, so my answer is correct. Go ahead, get started on your exit ticket, and then work on your homework if you understand what's happening. If you need more examples, I'll work on the back couple of problems with you.